So I'm not 100% certain that I wasn't raped. I was at a house I wasn't supposed to be at. In fact, my mother specifically told me not to go because there weren't going to be any parents there. So in my 12-year-old brain, I thought to myself, this must be what happens to little girls that don't listen to their mom. This was the summer between 6th and 7th grade. So when I went back to school in 7th grade, a fresh-eyed 13-year-old girl ready to take on the challenges of the world, I walked into a surprise. You see, those boys, probably in an effort to conceal what had happened, had told some of their friends that I had willingly participated in some sexual escapades with a bunch of them. And so I walked into a new nickname, Slater Slut. You see, Slater was my maiden name, and so it was a clever play on word. Well played, boys. I had just turned 13. This was 1990. Pre-cell phones, pre-Google, pre-internet. I didn't know what the word slut meant. In fact, I didn't even know what a penis looked like until I was in 5th grade, and a friend and I found a diagram of one in a book in the library, hunkered down behind the shelves. I didn't have any brothers. I was really sheltered. But that word slut, it sounded really bad. So I did what any other smart 13-year-old girl would do. I went back to the library and I looked it up in the dictionary. Let me tell you what the dictionary definition of the word slut means. A sexually promiscuous woman or an immoral, dissolute woman, a prostitute. But then there's more. Quote, the attack on the character of a person is perhaps best brought together by the highly suggestive and related compound word, slut hole, meaning a place or receptacle for rubbish. In other words, trash. But I wasn't a slut, was I? I mean, I was still a virgin, wasn't I? I had no one to ask. I couldn't ask my mom because she would be really mad that I had gone somewhere that she told me specifically not to go. And I had 2 older sisters, but I couldn't ask them because they would seriously just tell my mom. So I was 13 with a whole bunch of words just rolling around in my head, right? Slut, prostitute, rubbish, trash. 7th grade, 8th grade. Now most of us parents, we would tell our kids that it'll wear off, this nickname, it'll wear off, it'll go away, don't worry about it, right? But it didn't. And most of us, we grew up with nicknames like Skippy or Big Guy, or, if they were a boy and their name was Patrick, they might be called Pat. But no, my nickname, Slut. And I gotta tell you, I had other challenges as well, you see, because 2 of these boys, their last name started with the letter W, and my last name started with the letter S. And how do teachers a lot of times assign their seating chart? Alphabetical. So I oftentimes was at the end of row 5, and they oftentimes were at the end of row 6, which meant that we were in the bottom corner of the classroom, and the teacher was at the front of the classroom, which meant that I was very far away from safety if I was in a classroom with them, which, since there were 2 of them, they were twins, it was a pretty good chance that I was in a class with at least one of them. And if they were willing to tell their friends a lie, and that I had had these sexual escapades, and if they were willing to do that in the first place, they were definitely willing to make comments like, slut, or hey, want to do something like, after school? So I grew more and more withdrawn and more scared just to go to class. I found myself making up lies to the teachers just to get out of the alphabetized seating chart. So I can't see the blackboard. I need to be, in the front of the room, because I couldn't tell the teachers the truth. And that worked for a little while until they told my parents that I must need a vision test. And then I actually did need glasses, so that gave up that excuse. In 11th grade, I was sitting in English class, Mrs. Cave's English class to be exact. And it was one of those times when the teacher had a little bit of extra time, and so, we were all sitting there, and the kids were talking, waiting for the bell to ring. These were the times when I hated the most. Now, I found myself, and I can tell you that we've all seen the movie Mean Girls, but mean boys made mean girls look like angels. I had become really thick-skinned, and I had developed a policy to never let them see me cry. But they started talking about the incident, and this time, this one was something new. I heard him say, "I heard you had to put a bag over her head just to finish." And I sat there, and blood rushed to my ears. I started to panic. This time I was gonna cry. So I got up, and I walked to the door. Calmly, I think. I was going to have my panic attack in the hall like any other self-respecting woman, right? But Mrs. Caves, she was having none of that. She was not going to let one of her kids loose, right, in the hall. "Miss Slater, you come back here right this minute." I just kept walking. I was being insubordinate, but I didn't care. She comes chasing after me. Now, I probably could have told her. She's a woman. She probably would have understood. She wasn't a horrible person. She was just doing her job. But I couldn't, because she was a mandated reporter. She would have ran like a gazelle to the guidance office, and they would have picked up that phone and they would have called home. And after 5 years of keeping my shameful secret, my mother could not find out. So I got a detention. I got a detention because all of a sudden, I was too ugly to rape. It wasn't long when I found myself at the top of the Lampa Peak Tower, 1,233 feet in the air, wondering if that was tall enough that if I jumped, that I would die. Now it turns out that I probably would. I've Googled it since, and apparently 100 feet is all you need. But at the time, again, it was 1990, there wasn't Google, there was no sunrise. So I sat up there for over an hour, and I was just praying that I had the strength, but I didn't. So I came back down, and it just felt like it was another failure. Little did I realize that God was going to repurpose all of this pain for a much, much better plan. It wasn't until I had a 12-year-old daughter of my own that I realized just how young 12 years old really is. At the time, I really felt like I was older than I was. It's funny, it's kind of like you learn how to cook macaroni and cheese, and you think, I'm an adult. I can do all the adult things. And it's funny because I think my kids feel the same way, you know? But I was an adult, and I couldn't do adult things. I was a kid, and I had a lot of pain, shame, and fear. It changed how I grew up. It changed how I viewed the world. It changed how I thought other people viewed me. Anytime people were talking to each other and they so much as glanced at me, it changed how I thought that they were thinking about, they probably weren't talking about me, but I thought they were. and it changed how I viewed myself. Some of those things, the comments, the thoughts, and the words were a loop that have gone into adulthood for 25 years, and they still are insecurities that play out in my head. And it's taken a lot of therapy and different thinking to get to a place where I am today that I can share this story. But it's affected marriages, friendships, careers, pretty much my physical health, everything. My goal in 2019 is to start an organization that will help young people, young survivors, in a way that I wish I would have had back in 1990. Because back in 1990, I really needed to share my story. You know, I needed to be empowered with somebody where people that believed me and would have validated me. And perhaps I would have started to feel comfortable enough to then tell my parents. 1 or 2 times, I think, if I would have been able to share my story and be believed, I think I would have felt comfortable enough to share my story with my parents, who I had a great relationship with. And if I would have told my parents as a teenager, I would have been able to get help so much sooner. I wouldn't have had to go through that harassment alone. And I wouldn't have had to go through contemplating suicide as a teenager by myself. So my nonprofit is going to be an organization that organizes an open mic type of meeting. It's going to be formatted in an AA-NA type of a meeting, and it's going to be aimed at young people 25 and under that need a safe place to share their stories where there's not going to be a mandated reporter. We're going to have people that are meeting hosts that are hopefully trained by professional therapist partners. They're going to be held in local coffee houses, libraries, and schools that are easy for young people to get to, but also easily explained to parents who might be tracking high school kids' phones. So, you know, the locations are going to be easy to find. My goal is that at the first part of 2019, I need to be able to form a board of directors and officially organize, and that we're able to host our first meeting around May, which is after prom and spring break, which unfortunately has a very big peak in sexual assaults. We'll be able to market using the schools themselves in the first part of the year, and also utilize social media and student ambassadors, and that'll be part of our marketing plan. Right now, my earliest need is that I'm in the need of a board of directors, okay? Because right now, this is a vision, and it's something I am clearly very passionate about. I was literally driving my car, and something told me I needed to do this. This is what this is your purpose. And I've been driving it ever since. I want to name it WC for Waukesha County Sexual Assault Student Survivors, or SAS, because when you use your voice and speak your truth, you prove that you have power, and maybe just a little sass. So I want to help young people take back their power. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate any support that you can give.